can you use the Sony ZV-E10 as a videographer in 2024? That is the question we'll be asking and answering in today's video. Okay, so my name is Chris. I bought the Sony ZV-E10 last year in 2023 around March or April. I did that in order to start a production company at the time, and I did somewhat okay with that. But it was an upgrade for me because I'm coming from the Sony A50-100. My only criteria for purchasing when I bought the Sony ZV-E10 at the time was really I needed an audio input, and I might need 4K, and that was really it. I don't really know a lot about cameras, and I didn't know a lot. I knew even less back then. But yeah, so the main criteria for purchasing was just the microphone jack, and that was really it. So I could plug audio into it and not have to worry about syncing it later in post. So I didn't really do a lot of research before I bought this camera. Like I said, my main criteria for purchasing was that it had an audio input, and that's all I really needed. It's definitely marketed for vloggers. I mean, I think it literally says even in the title on the sales page, it says for vloggers or something like that. So I would say it's good for vlogging, but if you're going to use it for commercial videography, I would say it lacks a bit. You can make it work with good lighting and good storytelling ability, but if I had to do it over, I'd probably opt for the FX30 at this point, or even the A6700. So one issue you're going to run into with this camera is actually overheating. Even with the auto shutoff temp to high, you're still going to have issues with overheating with the camera. You'll probably only get maybe 10 to 20 minutes of 4K footage at most, and that depends if you're in direct sunlight or not and what the room temperature is. I'm pretty sure people have found some ways around that, like keeping the battery door open or something like that. But in my experience, I had to set the auto shutoff temp to high, and I was really only getting about 10 to 20 minutes out of it. Another major drawback with the camera actually has been that there's no 60 or 120 frames per second, so you're not going to be able to get that super slow motion. It does get, at least in 4K, so it does get 30 frames per second, so you're able to slow it down a little bit in post by up to I think 80% or 20% or something like that, and you do get some slow motion. It's not really super slow motion, you could say, so you could still make it work, but it's just it would be a lot better if you had that extra slow motion, the extra frames per second for slow-mo. So for lens selection, I would probably recommend getting a new lens, or part of your budget being getting something other than the kit lens with the camera, and that's for a number of reasons. The first reason is that you want that constant aperture, so that way, or the constant f-stop, so that way you can zoom in and out while filming and you won't get that darker image. Another reason is that the kit lens just isn't, in my experience, just wasn't as sharp as it could have been, or it wasn't as sharp as some of the different lenses I bought. But yeah, that would be the main two reasons. So I bought two lenses for this camera. I bought the 10 to 18 f-stop 4 or aperture f4 lens from Sony. I believe it's the SELP 1018, I believe. I also bought the 18 to 105 f4 from Sony as well. I got pretty good deals on them from Amazon, so I went ahead and purchased them. And I have to say, those lenses really up the quality of my work just by a notch, or by a solid notch, so it's pretty cool. So for client satisfaction, I would say that none of my clients complained about the quality of the work at any time. I think most of them were, I would say pretty much all of them were satisfied with the work I was doing, so that's good. The only issue I had was with the overheating, where the camera literally overheated in the middle of a shoot and I had to make that work out. But it worked out. It was the end of that shoot, so it worked out. But yeah, that would be one of my only complaints, that's just the overheating. Also, I don't think my clients even cared or knew about what camera I was using. They just assumed I knew what I was doing, which is kind of interesting. So for beginner videographers, commercial videographers, you should be okay with this camera. But the better gear, the better storytelling ability, and the better lighting you have, the better off you'll be. So as for alternatives, if we're talking strictly videography, I would have to say, if I could go back and do it again, I probably would get the FX30. And that's simply because it does not overheat in 4K to my knowledge. It also shoots up to 120 frames per second in 4K as well. The only issue is that it's not necessarily designed for taking photos, but you can do with it. And the photos come out excellent, as I seen on Facebook. So in conclusion, I would say that if you just need a cheap B cam, a second B cam, or if you're a vlogger, you should be fine with the Sony ZV-E10. If you wanted something more professional, especially for video, I would probably opt for the FX30. And if you wanted a hybrid shooter slash video camera, I would probably opt for the A6700. So that's all I got. I just want to say thanks for watching if you got this far. Let me know what questions you guys have in the comments below. I did my best to really make sure all my information was as accurate as I could, but I really just based it off my experience off using the camera for the past year. But yeah, let me know what questions you have below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And I'm looking for new things to review. I'm leaving this pretty broad, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if you got something for me to review, just go ahead and drop that in the comment, and I'll see what I can do about it. Okay, peace.